Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Journey to Happiness. I am your host, Chrissy, and as always, I'm so glad that you're joining me. Happy Labor Day today, so I hope you get to go out and enjoy it with friends and family. So, we're going to continue on with our theme of talking about spiritual awakenings and the challenges that come along with it. And one of the challenges, one of the hardest things that you will have to deal with is losing people and situations out of your life. This can be, obviously, it can be job situations. It can be, you know, jobs. It can be friends. It can be romantic relationships. It can be housing situations. There's a lot of changes that happen when you spiritually awaken. And I want to talk about why that is because I think it's the hardest thing to go through, especially when you talk about losing people. So, first of all, let's talk about what relationships are, okay? If you have been following my podcast all of this time, you have heard me, or my YouTube or my TikToks, you have heard me talk about relationships being a mirror to us. Relationships are just a mirror of what is going on beneath the surface, what our subconscious mind believes. The relationships within our life will reflect back to us that belief. So if you have a belief that you are not worthy, then you will have relationships in your life that will prove to you that you are not worthy. Remember, if you've listened before, you know I tell you your brain likes proof. So if you feel unworthy, your brain is going to do things to prove to you that you are unworthy, and it will draw, situations into your life that will prove that to you. That is what relationships are. But why is this? Why is this all happening? Okay. If you want to know the why of it, because relationships are the best way to learn and to grow and to evolve as a soul, which is why we are on this planet to begin with. So, if we look at it from that concept and the concept that we need to learn and evolve and grow so that our soul can evolve, right? Because that's the reason we're here, then we have to have these situations come up in our life to get through them and to move past those subconscious blocks that we are holding. Okay. That's the first thing. So you really need to understand this concept. I've talked about it so many times. So I hope at this point you all understand what I'm trying to say. The second thing is we are balls of energy, okay? Energy never lies. And we are just, it's an electromagnetic energy that is happening around us. It is a specific frequency. That frequency is also what attracts people to us. And again, this is like this frequency could be if you have subconscious beliefs that you're not worthy, that frequency is drawing those types of people into your life too, okay? When you have a spiritual awakening, you start to see all of this. You start to see the patterns. You start to understand why it's happening. And that's rough, right? It's rough because you have to take some responsibility for attracting these things into your life. And you have to start healing the things underneath the surface that you never understood were even going on. Those start to bubble to the surface. As this happens, and you begin to heal this, like these little tidbits, like you're starting to heal all these little like pieces that all go like little parts of a puzzle. As you're beginning to heal all of these little pieces, your energetic frequency starts to change. The magnetic frequency that you're giving off to the universe begins to change, and it begins to change for the better. Because remember, everything, well, 95% of our lives is ran from the subconscious mind, from what is beneath the surface, which is that frequency, right? So you can sit there and you can try to say like you can do all the affirmations that you want. You can try to tell yourself that, you're love and you're all of these things. But if you don't truly believe it on the inside, then you're not going to be emitting that electromagnetic frequency to the rest of the universe. So that is what is attracting things into your life, is that energetic field. So as you begin to spiritually awaken. And sorry, I have to yawn. It's a little late here. You begin to change and evolve, and that frequency starts to vibrate at a higher frequency. These things that are no longer serving you start to fall away. And now sometimes these things fall away because, well, not sometimes, they're kind of go hand in hand. These things fall away because you're also learning the lessons at the same time, and you're starting to like heal. And as you start to heal, then you're no longer going to bring people into your life. They're going to make you feel these negative emotions, right? And so all of this is going on. The energy is changing, the frequency is changing. And as that happens, people begin to fall out of your life. People begin to fall out of your life. And this is one of the hardest things that you will go through during a spiritual awakening, because this could be the friend that you've had since you were in high school. This could be the marriage you've had for, a couple of decades. This could be the career that you've been building for the last 15 years. This could be the house that you bought and raised your children in, 30 plus years ago. It could be any number of things. But now that you are a different person and now that you are vibrating on a different energetic frequency, the things that you had before might not be a match for you anymore. And this is extremely hard because sometimes it just happens out of your control. Like maybe your job decided that they were going to get rid of your position. So they tell you they have to let you go. Maybe you found out that your husband was having an affair for the last 5 years, and so you have to let that relationship go. Maybe you realize that you and your friend just don't have anything in common anymore. And the more every day that goes by, the farther you guys drift apart. There's so many things that can happen, but the thing is that this stuff is usually happening because it's leading you to something better, but it's so hard when you're going through it. And that's why I've been talking about this a lot, because I know this summer so many of us went through a lot of changes, and myself included. Like it was probably one of the roughest times I've ever had. Since I was spiritually awoken, I have had more challenges than I ever have had. I mean, I've had some rock bottom places in my life, but since my spiritual awakening started, it's like some of them are really rough. But I also think that again, I think I can handle them better now. And I think that we all can once we get on this path. Because, they say God doesn't give you more than you can handle anyway, right? But I also think I don't know. I just think that it's more when you're on a spiritual awakening journey, it's more of an internal healing. It's more of a healing the subconscious. And I think another reason that is hard is because we oftentimes don't realize what is there. We, for example, we get in the toxic relationship, right? It might not be toxic at first, but it winds up toxic. And we get in that relationship and we get multiple ones. And we don't understand why, and we tell ourselves, I love myself, I think I'm worthy, but I just love this guy, right? I just love this guy. But what's really going on underneath the surface is you probably don't truly love yourself. And so that relationship is trying to make you face that by like making you start loving yourself and walking away because you know your worth. Okay, does that make sense? So that's just one example. I'm just using a relationship as an example because I think we can all relate to that. I feel like pretty much everybody on the planet has been in a toxic relationship, especially if you're, in your 40s. Like you've definitely been there. And I feel like that's just an easy example to use, right? Because again, they're just a mirror and they're mirroring that back to us. And as we start to spiritually evolve and grow, we can see that mirror more clearly. And that is a very hard pill to swallow because nobody wants to admit that they don't love themselves. Nobody wants to admit that, they have these negative belief systems about themselves. But when you look at the relationships that you're in and the people that you're around, the situations you're in, they will reflect back to you how you really feel. So, as you spiritually grow and evolve, uh, the challenges, they're just part of the package. But the goal is to get through them. And we always do, right? We always come out the other side stronger and better than ever. So I guess, I don't know, this podcast might have been all over the place, but I guess I'm just here to let everybody know they're not alone. And that is what the podcast is about. It is about bridging the gap between all of us and like letting everybody know that they're not alone in their struggles. And if you are on a spiritual path and you need, just community and people around you, like just, subscribe to this podcast. You can always also find me on TikTok and YouTube. I'll link those in the description actually. You can follow me over there because yeah, I just think it's important for us to stick together going through these trying times. And my goal is to help people. I have a lot of tools in my pocket that I'm going to start sharing some of them more, I think, on some of my social medias to help people navigate this healing journey and the spiritual path because it can be really rough sometimes. But it's also very beautiful and lovely. So, anyway, I think that's it for tonight. I love you guys so much. Go follow me on TikTok or, like I said, or YouTube, either one. Subscribe to this podcast and please leave me a review if you found it helpful because it will help other people find this podcast too. So until next time, I love you guys so much.